Hello, my happy Kreppen Wargamers. Do we have a heck of a show for you today? So we're going to talk about some of the 3 baddest bosses in our arsenal that we have. A lot of people are feeling kind of down on these guys, but I'm here to tell you they are awesome. They might be a little bit pricey in the new edition, but they're freaking great. Stay tuned to learn how to include the coolest characters into your orc army and crump with the best of them. Getting right into it, let's start with Mr. Boss Zagstruk himself. This boy is amazing. He adds a ton of death and utility to your Storm Boy squad. Now, this is fair. Out of the 3 bosses we're going to talk about today, I do believe this is the hardest one to include in my list. He is a little pricey for what he does now. Back in 9th edition, when he had the ability to just auto-go 18 anywhere and just slaughter on his own, that was really, really nice. However, now he really needs to be attached to a squad. So he's going to be adding 1 hit to the Storm Boy squad, which actually is a big improvement from 9th edition where he did not do that. He is also going to give reroll charges out of Deep Strike. Now, initially this sounds pretty dang good because, oh, cool, I can Deep Strike, I can reroll charges just like I used to be able to. But it kind of sucks because a reroll charges out of Deep Strike still only gives you a 47% chance of making that charge. A rerollable 9-inch charge is not reliable. You're never going to want to try it. Or you're never going to want to be in a position where you have to make a 9-inch rerollable charge. It's a bad ability. They should have just given him reroll charges to the Storm Boy unit. That would have been a good ability. Anyway, so currently, if I'm running Boss Zagstruk, which by the way is still totally viable, I'm running him with 5-man. 5-man, not 4. And the reason why I'm running them with a 5-man is because a 5-man of Storm Boys can get wherever you need them, and they're also pretty cheap. 5-man Storm Boys cost 65 points. Zagstruk costs 100 points. Add that together, you have a 165-point unit that is actually a fantastic countercharge unit. And they're also very, very swift because they do have the ability to get to the enemy outside of the WA phase. And that is really, really important. And even though they're flyers, they do keep the oh so important infantry keyword, so they do not have to measure diagonal distances when moving through ruins. I don't take him alone. All right, now let's look at how are we actually going to run this boy on the tabletop. How do you run him on the table? Well, Zag plus the Storm Boys will be a fantastic countercharge. Or it could even be a little bit of an outstrike if you're trying to get rid of like an annoying infiltrator squad. They are fantastic for that. He is needed here because your normal Storm Boy squad only striking with strength 4 is not going to be able to cut it to wipe out those MSU Marine squads. So if you want your Storm Boys to be actually hunting out these infiltrator units or some of these like slightly beefier middle tankiness infantry units, you actually do need Zagstruk. As I said there, the Deep Strike charge really kind of sucks. It would be great if you could stack the stratagem for Here We Go onto it, but sadly you can't because that stratagem has to be used earlier in the movement phase, at the beginning of the movement phase, not in the reinforcement step. So sadly, the big 10-man blob with Zagstruk, I think, is just out. However, I do like him, and he is usable. The thing is he's not required. And in order to use him, you actually will need some of the other characters to, or not characters, but some other units to support him. So, for example, if you do want to be running him, you have to be aware that Storm Boys are very vulnerable to Overwatch. So one of the best things to do is to run commandos in first, tie up units because commandos can't be overwatched, and then suddenly the enemy vehicle can't overwatch your Storm Boys as they're moving wherever they need to be moving. I'm going to show on TTS here exactly what that looks like. So let me just switch to the TTS view so that you can understand exactly what I'm talking about. Cool. So let's say right here, I have this unit of Storm Boys, and we got Mr. Boss Zagstruk. See, that's the Boss Zagstruk. And they're going to try to kill this unit of Intercessors. And that's probably a little bit aggressive to try to get all 5 of them, or all 10 of them, but we're going to give it a whirl. But the thing is, I can't just bring the Storm Boys out here to actually kill these Intercessors. And the reason for that is because the second I put them right there, this Repulsor Executioner is going to overwatch me and just light me up and kill my squad. So I can't do that. So instead, I have to do a little bit of a combo move here. I'm going to have to take the Commandos, and the Commandos are actually going to have to do a charge. And they'll charge the Repulsor Executioner and perhaps even the Intercessors. Because the thing about the Commandos is they cannot be overwatched. Now you're free to bring the Storm Boys out and do the thing. The problem with this is that your Commandos only do this in the charge phase, and that is too long a charge for the Storm Boys in all reality. So if you wanted to, you could maybe move them up right here. Just make sure that line of sight is drawn so that you can't get Overwatch in the movement phase. And then suddenly you have a 8-inch charge. So it is possible, it is usable, but it is quite challenging. The other option on this tabletop on this battlefield would be if I had my Storm Boys sitting right here, I could move them out and try to get these intercessors. So what I would do is I would move them right about here because I need to make sure I watch this firing lane because I don't want to get overwatched in the movement phase. And then I would be able to charge a 7-inch charge into these guys. So that's the way you're using the Storm Boys. Yeah, it's a little bit sad because they're so vulnerable to the overwatch in the movement phase now. But when you do stack Zag with them, they do hit kind of hard. That being said, once again, that's probably the character I would drop from this list if I really needed to drop a character from this list. The other two, I feel, are much better options. Let me go back to the PowerPoint, and we'll talk about them now. Boom! Magic PowerPoint. All right, now we are on the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Boss Snikrott. I'm super excited to be able to talk about him today because he is in a very different place than he was in 9th edition. 9th edition, you could only run him in Blood Axes, and once the Army of Renown Blood Axes or Supplement Codex disappeared, you couldn't run Blood Axes. It was basically only Death Skulls or the Goths. But now, since we can run any character in any type of Orc detachment, Snikrott is awesome. Similar place to Zagstruk. The reason I wrote that is because you can take him or leave him. You don't need him. However, he does actually improve your commandos a tremendous amount. He is 105 points, and going with commandos, which are 130 points, that is a fairly pricey unit. You're now looking at a 235-point unit. But what do you get for that 235-point unit? Quite a bit. One of the things that he does is he makes sure that your commandos are always in cover, no matter what. So they'll always have that like 4-up-ish armor save, which is pretty useful, but it's not gonna make him be super incredible. He does have his 6 attacks at strength 6 with AP 1, and it's going to be damage 2, which is really nice in Orcs to have a little bonus damage 2. Once again, not why you take him, even though they are twin linked, so he will typically be wounding with it. Still not why you take him. Here is why you take him. What this boy is going to do is he's going to let you, once per game, teleport your commandos anywhere on the tabletop outside of 9 inches of your enemy. This can be done turn 1. This can be done turn 1, which is super incredibly powerful. So how do we actually use this guy on the tabletop? Well, first off, how are we going to run? Well, that once per game redeploy, it's going to make these commandos super darn flexible. We're going to infiltrate them into a highly annoying place where they're not going to be able to get targeted turn 1. And if we do happen to go first, maybe we redeploy them somewhere else. Or if we happen to go second, perhaps we, I don't know, move them into a position where your opponent is not expecting to get struck. And remember, the beautiful part of this is you can actually stack Here We Go with this ability because you can use Here We Go in the beginning of the movement phase, then pick your dudes up and redeploy them somewhere else. So you can actually get essentially like a turn 1 9-inch deep strike that is actually a 7-inch charge, which is actually very, very strong. One of the cool things about Boss Snikrott is he's just a really good overall boost for the commandos. When you include him, you're probably, and I say probably because maybe not exactly, but you're probably going to be including all of the, all of the melee weapons for the unit of commandos. Although I would probably keep the rocket launcher just because the rocket launcher is a little bit usable now. This is a great combination, and it actually gets you in a position where you can really mess up an opponent's plans really well in turn 1. Anytime you can essentially get a redeploy or a deep strike turn 1, and it's a 7-inch charge, that is very freaking powerful. You can actually use him to run in and try to assassinate Orkin from like the big warrior squad from Necron. So he is a fairly good character assassin because he just has 6 attacks hitting on 2s, exploding on 6s, and then he gets full wound rerolls against everyone at damage 2. AP 1's not great. I really, really would love to see this guy with an AP 2. He deserves it. He needs it. Games Workshop, what are you doing? Come on. But anyway, that is Boss Snikrott. Let's switch over to the TTS and let me kind of show you live what I was kind of talking about, what I want to do with him on the tabletop. All right, here we go. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick these commandos back up over here. And we're going to put them back into this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to infiltrate these bad boys. I'm going to start them somewhere in this terrain right here. And I'm going to have these guys 1.1 inch away from the building's ruins so that it's impossible to actually charge them in the building. And since all ruins are counting as having their windows closed, remember, these windows count as closed, then you can't see me through the windows anyway. So they're perfectly safe from shooting, unless you're getting shot from this angle. Like this tactical warsuit is going to actually be able to shoot me, which is a little annoying, but I accept it. And then we also, or I could even place him like this, and then suddenly even the tactical warsuit is going to have, he's still going to be able to see me. Don't worry about that. So the tactical warsuit can still see, but that's okay. His shooting isn't going to eliminate the entire squad. But let's say I go first, and right now, what I can see, the state of this board, is I can see, hey, I have a unit of intercessors back here holding this objective. Now, I have two really, really good rolls with these commandos right here. One, I can move them out, kind of like I demonstrated earlier, and I can just tag all of these units, and Boss Snikrott can do work, and he can kill all these Primaris intercessors, and then I can just tie up this Repulsor Executioner really, really well, and I can't be overwatched because I'm commandos. What an amazing roll. Or if I don't want to do that, one thing that I can do is I can bring them right back over here. Hello, go back to your friends. And I can just say, nope, let's redeploy. And in turn 1, I can redeploy all the way back here into my opponent's back lines. And I spent 2 CP for here we go. So it is a 9 inches away, but it's actually a 7-inch charge. And then suddenly, what do I have? I have a probability of getting that charge, killing all the Primaris intercessors fairly easily with Snikrott's bonuses, and then suddenly I am also have stolen his backfield objective. This is an extremely powerful ability that you can do turn 1, turn 2 as well, turn 3 as well. Doesn't really matter when you use it. You can always use it to really great effect. So they're a multi-purpose unit, and Snikrott just really adds a lot. I am actually going to be including Snikrott into my Orks list, which I'll be going over in a future video. Then, finally, we've got the last man to talk about for today. The last man was never seen last edition, but he is the captain, and we love him. He's an amazingly cool looking model, and he's got some of the really, really more fun units in the entire game, the Pirate Orks. I freaking love them. So he's actually good this edition, which is a huge breath of relief because he was he was bottom of the barrel bad last edition. He makes flash kits actually super good. The only problem with the flash kits here is that they're at AP1, which is a big problem for a good shooting unit because essentially everything in the game is always going to have a cover save. But they still have a fairly respectable output when you stack them with Captain Badrukk, and that gives your opponent something to actually really think about because holy crap, what do I do when Orks can actually shoot? Suddenly I have to be careful with the way I move. So what he does is he's going to give full rerolls to hit. Full rerolls to hit for flash kits is really dang good because remember, flash kits explode on 6s. So it gives you a little bit of an opportunity to be fishing for those 6s. So if you stack that with heavy, suddenly your flash kits are hitting on 4s with full rerolls to hit and exploding 6s. That is approximately a 90% hit rate. Flash kits also have the ability that they get to add 1 to their shots if they're shooting like the closest enemy unit. So suddenly you have 40 shots that are going out and it's Orc shooting and they're still making like 35 hits. That is pretty dang strong. And don't forget that once per game, your flash kits will also be able to use their ammo run, which is going to allow them to get lethal hits. So they're going to be exploding on 6s and auto-winning on 6s. It's actually pretty scary when you think about the damage output they have. So how do we actually run this guy? Actually, you know what? I did skip one thing. And this actually does come into play. I forgot about it. Let me type it down here. He gives an aura of -1 toughness to the enemy if they're within 6 inches of him. This comes into play because, weirdly enough, flash kits are pretty good in melee. They all have 4 attacks each at strength 5 AP1. They have better choppas than your normal orc boys do, which is strange, but it's just a reality of the game world that we're playing into. So how are we going to run these guys? Well, for me, I'm always running them mounted. I'm running them in a truck. I'm not going to have them foot slogging it because they will get devoured by indirect fire. So I want them mounted. They're going to be in a truck. The reason for this is that they're protected and they're also a heck of a lot faster. And remember, the rules for firing duck are really clear. It counts as if the truck is shooting the weapon. So when you're shooting your weapon out of a truck, it's the truck that's shooting it, which means you don't get to use your unit's abilities. Meaning when they're in the truck, they can't get the full rerolls to hit from Badrukk. However, the sustained hits and heavy profile is on the weapon itself. So you will still get exploding 6s and the benefit of heavy if somehow you're remaining stationary in the truck, which is actually pretty dang cool. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to run them. We're going to move the truck up. It's going to shoot. It's going to be okay. You'll kill a few guys. And then in your opponent's turn, they're going to move. You're going to overwatch. And since you get exploding 6s, it's actually going to be a relatively decent overwatch. Suddenly, you got to activate twice. Then your opponent is going to kill your truck. You'll hopefully have your truck in a correct position to disembark in a safe place. And then your flash kits are going to have the ability to shoot while remaining stationary with Captain Badrukk attached to them. So they're going to actually annihilate a lot of things. They actually do really good. let me talk about the damage that these guys actually do first, and then we'll go back to the TTS, and I'll show you exactly what I mean with the way that I'm going to deploy them and move them up the battlefield. So this is a flash gets just damage into intercessors. All right, so flash gets in a truck. So this is in a truck. You don't have the +1 to hit for heavy. You do still get the exploding 6s. On average, you're going to kill anywhere between 2 and 4 intercessors. Most likely, you're going to kill 3. Right? Honestly, it's not that bad. It's much better orc shooting than what we had last edition. It's still not what you would consider good for the points investment. However, after that truck, you're going to do essentially the same thing in your Overwatch. Maybe you'll do like 4 damage, so you'll kill like 2 intercessors in your Overwatch, maybe 3 again. And then what happens is we're going to move on into the next turn after they have blown your truck up and your flash kits have disembarked. So this is what we do when we remain stationary and we have Badrukk with us and we do an ammo run. Suddenly, you wipe a 10 man of intercessors without blinking an eye, and that's without Badrukk shooting. Remember, Badruck's gun is actually pretty good now. He hits that strength 8 with that AP 3 damage 3. He is a Terminator killer, which is awesome because he also gets to reroll his hit rolls and he also gets the exploding 6s. It's a very, very big deal. So this is both of these damage calculations are done without Badruck's shooting included. But that'll just give you an idea of the amount of damage they can put out. So suddenly, flash kits are actually doing a lot of activation, and you can more or less guarantee that you're always going to get to activate them about 4 times. Once in the truck in Overwatch, once on foot, and then once in Overwatch on foot. And remember, their Overwatch on foot is actually really nice because you get full rerolls to hit. So you get to fish for those 6s, which all count as 2 hits. It's super, super good. And then what you can do, you can actually take those flash kits and you can run them into melee and they can actually slap because they have strength 5, AP 1, 4 attacks each, and Captain Badrukk himself gives the enemy -1 toughness like he's Death Guard. Flash kits are actually quite a good value. I'm considering them in my list. My only issue is that it's an AP 1 shooting, which means that things are saving with cover pretty much all the time. That is a little bit of a pause for me, but this is a really good unit. Now, you would only take 1 unit of flash kits. It's not like commandos where you might take 2 units of commandos and only one gets Snikrott, but the other unit of commandos you might still take. You're only going to be running 1 unit of flash kits. Let me go back to the TTS. I'm going to kind of basically show you how I'm going to walk up the battlefield like I just described. All right, so here we are. You take the truck, you move him down right here. Right now, the truck is going to be able to shoot this Invictor Tactical Warsuit or something, or maybe he's going to be able to shoot your Primaris Intercessors or whatever. He's going to do a little bit of damage. Nothing that big a deal. Then it's the Space Marine's turn. The Invictor Tactical Warsuit's going to come like right here, and he's going to be like, hey, I'm going to move, and then the truck's going to Overwatch. He's going to shoot him again, blink another 2 or 3 wounds off of him. No big deal. Then suddenly the Repulsor Executioner shoots the truck. Truck dies, but what happens? We're actually going to go ahead and disembark all of our flash kits. So all of our flash kits will just come out of the truck. Somewhere within like 3 inches. So we'll just bring them all around right about here. Truck goes away. Invictor Warsuit now has a 7-inch charge. He might make it, he might not. If he doesn't make it, then what we're going to do is we're going to light him up and kill him for sure next turn. Now, this is a fairly bad situation for the flash kits also. If this was not an Invictor Warsuit and this was a unit of intercessors here, let's just redo the math on that. We have this truck. The intercessors, they get shot. They lose 3 or 4. Pew, pew, pew. Let's just say we kill 3 with the flash kits in the truck. Then the intercessors are going to move up. They're 6 inches. We Overwatch in their turn. Boom, boom, boom. We're going to kill 2 more of them. Maybe even 3 of them. Let's say boom, boom, boom. And then the Repulsor Executioner is going to blow up the truck. Now our intercessors are going to try to kill the flash kits. And they're going to shoot them, and they're going to charge, and they're going to kill maybe 1 flash kit. They're not going to make the charge, and then in our turn, we're going to light them up and kill those intercessors very, very easily. Then the flash kits get to either hold this position, or maybe next turn they'll just sit here for this turn, and then maybe next turn they walk out and try to shoot the Repulsor Executioner. So basically, that's the way I'm going to run them. You're going to start them in the truck and use your own creativity. The truck can start right here to remain completely hidden out of line of sight. You can move them however you want. There's different targets, but basically what you want to be putting these dudes into is you want to be putting them into your Marine equivalents because of that sweet, sweet flat damage too. For 1 turn, when they get that 6s to hit, count as auto wounds. They're going to be really nasty into the Invictor warsuits and the repulsors as well, but that's only going to be 1 turn a game. So be sure that you're careful when you actually activate them. Anyway, that was all I have for you guys today. This is my tutorial on running Badrukk, Zagstruk, and Snikrott. Hope you all loved it. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like, subscribe button, and share these videos with your friends as we learn more about our in-depth tactics in the game of Warhammer 40,000. Bye-bye.